when I was in high school, I had a really good group of friends, and one of them in our, maybe, I can't remember whether it was senior year or the year before our senior year, she attempted her own life, and ended up in the hospital. And up until that point, none of us in this circle of friends really knew what she had been going through, or really understood that she had been going through a lot of things, that she had been keeping very close to her heart and not really sharing it. I think that was one of those moments in my life where it really affected how I felt about myself, my value as a friend, my value as a person as well. I think a lot of times when we talk about, people who are self-harming, we often don't realize the impact that it actually does have on the people around them as well. And I certainly was one of those. It was almost as if, my own ability to communicate or be able to function was actually quite affected. And it wasn't for any particular reason. It's just that incident had triggered something also in me. And I think at that point is sort of, going through the grief with a lot of our other friends and going through the journey of helping her sort of process it, which actually we didn't really do that as well as I had hoped we would. Thinking back to it, we actually pretty much with her didn't even ever talk about it. But amongst ourselves, we did. And it was through that sort of support network that we found sort of the strength to be able to continue on and find ways. And I think for me, now that I look back, it was a very pivotal part of my journey in really wanting to help others go through their social and emotional difficulties. It's also been a huge proponent of me wanting to be available, more available for those that are around me personally, and be more intentional and inquisitive in understanding how others are thinking and feeling. It's also really sort of subjected me to a lot of self-discovery as well, and to ask myself, the questions of, if I were in that sort of similar position, what kind of things would I have done, And I think that sort of process of not just on a self, like on an individual level, but also doing that as a group with the others that are around me, is actually what kept me going on. And I think that, I'm really happy that, many years later, my friend's doing okay. We still keep in touch across the distance, and we've had opportunities to actually bring up this conversation and to sort of process it together as adults now. But I think, the key thing is for us at that time, for me on an individual level, it was actually having people around me to be able to process it together, and also just the time and space to be able to think through and reflect on my own self as well, even as a teenager. And I think, it's that sort of support system that for me, I feel like is what actually allowed me to continue going on, because it didn't remove the grief and it didn't remove the emotions that went with it, but it allowed me to process it and have the burden not just on my own shoulder and be alone in it, but actually have people around me. I think that idea of support or support system, or what I call today, when working with youth, more peer support opportunities, I think that that's actually quite crucial for me in not allowing myself to give up.
Thank you, Sky. Thank you for sharing an incredible personal story. And Michael had mentioned his father, and you'd mentioned your support network. So I think it shows the people around you are incredibly important.